Hi, everyone. We're going to get started in just a minute. Okay, good morning, everyone, and happy Valentine's Day. It's 10 o'clock. I'm going to give us just another minute or two. We have about more than 50 people registered for this, and we have 27 on the line. So if everyone could just hang on for one more minute or two, and then we're going to get started to let everyone who registered to jump in here. While we're waiting, I'm just going to give you some housekeeping. Everyone is muted but me. I'll repeat this too, but everyone is muted. Giving a webinar like this is really interesting, especially for someone who, like me, who speaks typically in front of an audience. So if you have questions, there's the chat. You can put your questions in the chat, and at the end, I'm going to go through and look at all the questions and answer your questions. So please, if you have questions while I'm speaking, please put them in the chat. This format is a little bit interesting because it is kind of like speaking to myself and yet all of you. But if you have questions, don't use the hand raise thing. Just put your questions in the chat, and at the end, I have time booked in for questions and I will get to them. So I just wanted to let everybody know that. So I'm going to give you one more minute. We still have people jumping on, and I'm really excited to have you here. I'm going to go ahead and set up my screen share so you won't see me anymore. You're going to see the slides. I think, hold on. Let me try that again. Okay. Okay, it's 10:02 and we have 36 people joining me today, so I'm so excited. And I want to say first, welcome to the Brand of Attraction, 7 secrets to finding and keeping donors you love. I want to say thank you to Neosha Franklin, the St. Louis Community Foundation, STL Gives Day, for providing you with this educational opportunity, and I am so excited to deliver it to you. I am Mary Ann Dersch. If you don't know me, I'm so excited to meet you. Again, I'm going to walk through some slides with you. If this is being recorded as well, so if you know of people who can't be here today who wanted to be here, we're going to make that available to you. I'm going to work with Neosha to make sure that you have this recording, and I will post it too on my social media. So, and again, if you have questions, put your questions in the chat. I'm going to try to monitor it as I go, and monitor the chat for you as I go through the presentation. I'm going to pull up the chat here real quick. At the end, I have a present for you because it's Valentine's Day. So if you, oh, and everyone is muted, just so you know. So if you're like, at home doing the dishes or whatever, or people walking in and out of your office, it's okay. And that's why I want you to use the chat for questions. So at the end, you have a gift. I'm going to have a gift available to you because it's Valentine's Day. So I'm going to share the love with all of you. Wait till the end and I'll tell you how to get that. And we are going to get started with the presentation. Okay, so if you want these slides, you can go to brandofattraction.com, and I'll even give you 30 seconds right now if you want to open a new browser window and go there. You put your name and email address, and it will open up a page, and you can download all the slides today. Because this is a webinar, there's more information on a typical slide than I would give in a in-person presentation. But don't worry about writing a lot, because you are going to have all that available to you. You will have all the slides from this presentation. Just go to brandofattraction.com and you'll get the download. And I will also have the slides available for the Neosha and the St. Louis Community Foundation too. Okay, so have you ever wondered what it would be like to have the donors you love, like those awesome people that you can't wait to talk to, that you love being with? Have you ever wondered what it would be like to have people like that flowing to you, and to be available, to have an organization that just had people like that available to them? And this is what a brand of attraction is, and I'm going to show you how to do this today. I'm going to share with you, if you would like me to share, the ways that you can develop this brand of attraction. And this is an actual thing that you can have. This is not a dream or something only privileged in nonprofits can have. This is how you create a system for finding and attracting the people who are best suited to serve your organization. And I'm going to show you how to do that today. So you're about to discover a whole new way of thinking about branding, as far as how you're going to find and attract people to your organization. And I want you to really absorb this information. It's going to challenge your thinking a little bit. It's different than a lot of us have been conventionally taught. And I'm going to talk about what those myths are and how we're going to get through them. So my promise to you today is that at the end of this hour, you will have at least one strategy that you can start implementing today to start attracting the kind of long-term loyal donors that you need and deserve. So that is my promise to you. So what is a brand of attraction? A brand of attraction is connecting with like-minded people and attracting them to your organization. It's creating a system that gives your organization prominence in the marketplace so that you are easy to find, and the people who share your affinity, who share the love of what you do, that they are connected to you. So I'm going to teach you what that is. But why have a brand of attraction? So a brand of attraction is the idea that it's so much easier, instead of chasing people down every day and stressing and wondering where that next donation comes from, where that next gift is going to come from, that you have people flowing to you. And that isn't a really exciting prospect to have. And I think it's something that we just don't really believe can be true, or can be real for us, but it can be real, and it is an actual thing. And I'm going to give you today examples of nonprofits that are successfully using this methodology, and so that you know that this is an actual real approach that you can implement. So why do this now? Well, you know, besides this lovely theme of Valentine's Day that we picked to share this information, it's always a good time to perform at a higher level. And anytime, if you have, say, if your organization has a goal for the year to raise a certain amount of money, or to exceed last year's gifts, or whatever you need, because a brand of attraction, I'm going to really focus on fundraising today, but a brand of attraction can work for anything your organization needs: volunteers, program participants, you know, students, whatever you need. This methodology works. And so if you have a goal for fundraising, say, every day that you are not working towards that goal, you're creating a bigger mountain to climb, right? So what this system does is create these very specific daily activities that you can do, so that you're always moving towards that goal in a way that is very systematic. So who I am and why should you listen to me? So I'm Marianne. I have been working with nonprofits for a long time, 25 years. I spent the last 15 years at 501 Creative. I recently finished a book called Courageous Communication: How Codependence is Making Your Nonprofit Brand Boring and What to Do About It. And I have been writing and speaking. I recently appeared in the AFP newsletter, the Chronicle of Philanthropy, and I've done webinars, national webinars for IABC and other organizations. I am the creator and founder of the Courageous Change Workshops, which I'll tell you more about later. And I have clients from St. Louis, but also from all over the country that I've served for many years. And through this experience, I have developed this methodology. So I'm going to just tell you a little bit about me and my story. A lot of you on the line now may know me. If not, you're going to get to know me. So this is not a picture of me. This is my family. This is my mom and dad and my older siblings. And I was born about 3 years after this picture. So my mom had 4 kids in 5 years, and then 7 years later, she had me. So I had an interesting position in my family, which often left me feeling left out and left behind. So at a very young age, I grew a really strong sense of empathy, and how it felt to sort of be left out and to be felt like less than. This is an actual note. My mother passed away recently, and my sister found this in the paperwork. This is an actual note that I wrote to my parents when they all got to eat pizza and I was in bed. And I want you to see how beautifully my fundraising, my case for giving is in this note, because it is not, I'm not getting pizza, and it is not fair. I am upstairs suffering, but what I really like at the bottom is: love your dear, sweet, lovely, pretty, dignified, kind, warm-hearted daughter, Marianne. So this was my pitch to get pizza after I had been sent to bed, and I don't know why, but somebody brought home or somebody ordered pizza. So I often found myself left out of family gatherings. And but I was a natural performer, and this is my dad. My dad worked for Anheuser-Busch, and my dad was my creative inspiration in my life. He works in advertising, and every year for New Year's Eve, he would have this New Year party, and he would come down the stairs as the New Year's baby at midnight, and he would do these skits, and I would be the straight man, and I would set up the jokes, and then he would deliver the jokes. So this is kind of like how I grew up. And so what that led me to was being a social justice champion. My whole life, I have worked for causes and worked to better the lives of others who I thought had been left behind. Up in the top corner, this was me on my pink hat on the way to the Women's March 2 years ago. In the middle is my foster puppy, Icicle, who is available for adoption if anybody's looking for a puppy. I foster dogs for stray rescue. In the bottom left is my family. My kids are adopted out of foster care. And on the right side is my oldest child, Jasmine, who on the left picture was Patrick, but she came out as transgender last June. So we are working in those issues now, and I've been working a lot in writing and talking a lot about raising a transgender child. And I found myself always in the spotlight. The bottom left is me in burlesque class. I was doing a burlesque performance. I sing karaoke. If somebody wants somebody to be on camera, I'm usually the one to do it. The bottom is me with Patrick Berglund, who used to be my blues boyfriend, and he got traded. And we've both never been the same, I have to tell you. But Patrick Berglund and I are recording a PSA for the blues. So I just tend to find myself in these positions where I enjoy being in the spotlight. For 15 years, I mentioned before, I worked at 501 Creative, and my title was Strategist and Resident Extrovert. And that is truly the role I played. I did all the workshops, the group facilitations. I led a lot of the processes around where people made decisions. And I did a lot of workshops, and a lot of you probably have seen me present in this situation before. And after this 15 years of working with the clients, I decided that I wanted to have my own company. And Karen at 501, I'm gonna jump back real quick. Karen is the one in the gray sweater with the glasses there, was very supportive in this. And it was our goal for many years I would have my own business and focus more on the speaking and training and coaching that I liked. So I struggled for a few years to write a book. And then one day I was in my therapist's office, and my therapist said to me, I was telling her that someone had criticized me and how much that hurt me. And she said, well, Marianne, praise and criticism are the same thing. And I said, well, how can praise and criticism be the same thing? Because one makes you feel so good and one makes you feel so bad. And she said, well, it's just other people's opinions of you, and a whole person can manage praise and criticism. So criticism doesn't derail them, right? And they don't need praise. So I don't need somebody to tell me I'm pretty to feel pretty, right? And if somebody tells me something negative about me, that's not going to send me off the edge. And I thought, wow, all my clients are afraid of criticism and overly dependent on praise. You know, as nonprofits, I think we feel like we're held to this higher standard where we are not allowed to make mistakes. We're not allowed to experiment. We're not allowed to do wrong. And because of that, then we become overly dependent on praise. Like, we need to hear how wonderful we are, and we're terrified of criticism. So, and what happens is if we're afraid to do or say anything interesting, then we come off as boring, right? I mean, if you had a friend and your friend just needed praise all the time and just wanted to talk about how wonderful they were, that friend would get pretty boring really quickly. So it's the idea that organizations, nonprofits are filled with people, and people are authentic. We're part of a good and bad, and we get to share that authenticity. And it's an idea that you're going to attract more people to you by being authentic, right? And being who you truly are, and then being overly dependent on praise and terrified of criticism, because that was sending us really difficult or really boring messages. So this is me in my office. This is, and I have an office in the Cortex in St. Louis. I started the company Courageous Communication, although I had been working on it for many years. I started it full-time October 1st. And I wrote the book, Courageous Communication. This is me at the AFP conference. You may have seen me there in AFP conference in August. This is me. I was giving a presentation about burlesque and how burlesque taught me to be what burlesque taught me about nonprofit communication and life. And so I've been speaking and working with clients, and I'll tell you what I do for clients later. I just wanted to give you a heads up into who I was. I am also starting a revolution, and any chance to talk about Hamilton is good with me, but I'm starting a revolution. The revolution is to change the word nonprofit to human investment company. And why this is important is that as the word nonprofit, we focus on what we're not, which is nonprofit. And it's really the least interesting thing about us. Like, who cares if we make a profit or not? And you know, at the Thanksgiving table of industry, we're often feel like we're at the kids table. We're not quite a grown up, because success in this country is measured by your profit, right? And we don't even get one of those. And so by defining ourselves like that, we're sort of dismissing the contributions that we make to the community. So when we look at human investment company, it's this idea that, you know, if you can invest in oil, you can invest in stocks, you can invest in companies, you can invest in humanity. And the idea of an investment means that the investor and the investee both have a stake, and that what they're saying is, I'm going to give you money because I believe that you can create something more and better because of it. And so they both have a stake in the outcome. And so I'm challenging folks with this idea of human investment company, so that, because I think nonprofit is really messing with our collective self-esteem as an industry. And so, and that the idea that what we bring amazing things to the table, we provide everything that is rich and good in our culture. You know, we provide the safety net, we provide the caring, we provide the art, you know, we provide the humanity and the joy, and that is worthy of respect. So that is my revolution. And I've written about this in many publications over the last few months, and a few other topics around how nonprofits communicate and how we can do so, and coming from a place of power and secure in the gifts that we give and bring to the world, instead of powerlessness, which is like, can you please help us? You know, so I've been writing a lot about that. So now I'm going to jump into the brand of attraction. Let me check my time real quick. Okay, I'm going to jump into a brand of attraction. So what a brand of attraction is really, it's this idea of freedom. It is the freedom for your organization to make decisions based on the best interests of those you serve and nothing else. Because if you have the people flowing to you, and if you have the money and the energy flowing to you, then you can say, and no matter what climate it happens. So I've been hearing a lot of this lately. I can't raise money in this political climate. I can't raise money in this economic climate. No one wants to give to organizations like mine anymore. And I do get that the economy goes up and down. But you know what? Stuff is always going to go up and down. As my grandpa used to say, there's always something. So brand of attraction is really your best defense to keep you as strong as possible. So no matter what happens around us, that we know we're doing everything we can to be as successful as we can. So quickly, I'm going to go through the challenges, but heck, you're in these challenges every day, so you know what they are. But the challenges that you face is really just being pulled in a lot of different directions, right? And sometimes some of you work in a very reactive atmosphere where like, oh my gosh, I have to deal with this fire and this fire and this fire. And you're just having so much to do and pulled so many directions. How can I possibly think about bringing new donors on when I'm still trying to take care of the donors I have properly? Like that is a lot of the challenges. And the other challenges is kind of just being overwhelmed, right? Another pile of stuff. A lot of the folks I talk to feel a little isolated. They feel like they're the only ones out there. And it's the whole ability to raise money for that organization rests on their shoulders. And that is a big burden to carry. And I just want to know that I really feel you and empathize with that. And part of what I do and part of the gift that I bring is to create that connection so we can get out of that feeling of being alone. So the reason why you want to have a brand of attraction, and the reason why I'm sharing this with you, is because this is the most effective way that you can gather energy towards your nonprofit. And so, and this is a culmination of years of experience that I've had in with nonprofits, helping them brand themselves more effectively. And the bigger reason why is truly that I shared my life story with you, that little snippet of my life, because I want you to know that what I'm doing and the business that I run and how I help people is a true reflection of me, genuinely, authentically me, and that this is a complete gift for me, a privilege and an honor for me to be able to serve my community in this way. And that this is truly my life's passion, is to help nonprofits find their power and share that and really own that power so that they can connect with the people who really matter and get the money and the resources they need to do better in the community. Because when you do better, then we all do better. So what's different about a brand of attraction? So here's the big thing, is that you do not have to convince people of the worth of your organization. Your job is not to convince people that your organization is worthy. Your job is to find like-minded people and attract them to you. We cannot change what's in people's hearts, right? We cannot change. We're either going to have an affinity to this organization or not. And here's some of the myths that we've been living with. And one of those myths is that, everyone has to love us. And I have to cast that net really, really wide, because you never know, right, whose mind I could change. And it's true, sometimes you can change minds, and that's called compliance, which is different than commitment. We're looking for people who share our heart and our affinity. I gave you my life story. My kids are adopted out of foster care. I foster dogs. I am a rescuer by nature. That is who I am. It's not that I don't care about other organizations, because they're all my clients. I care very deeply. But it's that that is not my affinity. That is not my heart. And although I care about them, like when you're accessing, like, we all have our own philanthropic heart. And it's typically born of a pain. So someone has a pain that they had in their life, and they want to relieve other people from having that pain. I want to relieve other people from feeling left out or left behind, because that was the pain I suffered. Someone had, a cancer or a heart attack, and they say, I want to relieve someone from having this pain, and they get deeply and personally involved. Those are the people that we want to connect with. And so the myth of, hey, we have to convince everyone that we're worthy, you don't need to. And that's also kind of what's making our messages boring, is because we want to appeal to everyone. And when we do, we appeal to no one. So the other myth of this idea of, like, we have to appeal to everyone, because you never know, is sending really lame messages. We're afraid to do or say anything interesting because we're afraid to be seen as controversial or critical, or we're afraid of criticism, when really those were our people anyway. And we're spending a lot of energy trying to placate people who really weren't going to be our people anyway. And one of the other myths is that you have to create messages that for a million different audiences. And what we're going to talk about today, and I think this might be the most difficult thing to really wrap your head around, is that the more laser focused you are in your thinking, the better you're going to be. And I know you're thinking, but what about this group and this group and this group? And I get that, and that is true. But if you want to create attraction, if you want to have people flowing, we're going to have to really focus on who those people are. We're just going to leave everyone else at status quo. And we as nonprofits, we are, we're pleasers. We're givers. We want to give. We want to help. We want to appeal to everyone. It's in our nature. So it's hard for us to have a laser-like focus, but it is really what is going to help us be the most successful. Because once we have that focus and we have those people, then we can broaden it. So instead of coming in broadly and appealing to a bunch of different people, we're going to come in very laser-like and then broaden that focus as we bring those people forward. So here's the 7 steps. I'm going to walk through the 7 steps, and then I'm going to go through each one. And I have an example for each step. These are real world people who live in St. Louis or were my clients either now or when I worked at 501. So first is the avatar. So if we're going to create a brand of attraction, we have to understand who in the world we want to attract. So we're going to start there. The second is an attraction audit. So this is a assessment where we're just going to understand the effectiveness of our current communication and the ability to attract the avatar in one, right? Then we're going to talk about our brand promise, which is the highest level emotional connection we can make. And we already talked about sharing our heart. So it's important that we understand the brand promise so that we can connect emotionally. We're going to talk about messaging, our main message, which is what some people call it a tagline, whatever. It's still the same thing. I'm calling it a main message. And we're going to talk about talking points, because most of the times that we deliver our brand is in person. Yet we tend to focus on our website and our brochures and things like that. But it's very important that we feel confident delivering the main message and our brand in person, and what that feels like. And not just us, but all of those around us, our volunteers, staff, board, committees that would deliver that brand. And then we're going to talk about adjusting and implementing. So we're going to look back and say, okay, now that we know all of these first 5, now we're going to take this and say, what do we have and how do we need to adjust it to meet the needs of 1 through 5? And then we're going to share, so how do we deliver this brand to the people that we want to attract, to that avatar? So here we go. Step 1. There we go. Okay. So to create attraction, first we're going to need to understand who to attract. So who is your favorite donor? Who is the person you love to work with because the energy and the ideas flow easily? I have one of those people, right? Who one that sees your organization, oh my goodness, there's a typo, for the highest and best. We're going to create an avatar. So an avatar is a person, and you're going to give this person a name. And this is where that laser-like focus comes in, right? Because if you can think of that person that you love, that you would love to have more of, we're going to think about who is that person? What are their demographics? Where do they live? How old are they? What is their job? What are their characteristics? Like, are they, what do they like? What hobbies do they have? Where do they spend their time? And what are their pains and what are their gains? So by pains and gains, pains are like what keeps them up at night. What are their troubles? And this does not have to do with your organization. This could just be the troubles in their life. Like, so if your avatar is like a parent, like your avatar is a mom, and with this avatar would typically have young children. Some of the pains might be, around raising her kids and the daily grind of struggling. If your avatar is older kids, it could be, the paying for college, or, creating a stable future for them. What are the things that are keeping them up at night? What are the things that are they struggling with? And then the gains are, what legacy do they want to leave for themselves? What change do they want to see in the world? What do they want to bring to the world to make it better? And so understanding their pains and gains. Now, this is a guess, and I get that this is a guess. You can even talk to people and ask them these questions, and dig into them a little bit. But we really want to understand their demographics and their characteristics, like what social media do they use? What blogs do they read? What TV do they watch, right? Because what we're going to do in step 8, we're going to deliver, and we need to know where these people are if we're going to deliver to them. So understanding our avatar, and this is really the fundamental thing about a brand of attraction, is really understanding who this person is and driving everything we do towards them, which I know is probably making you question this a little bit, because you're like, I bet I have so many different avatars. And that could be true. You may have a programmatic avatar or a fundraising avatar. So for every goal that you have, every strategic goal, you probably have one avatar. But I'm asking you, the less you have, the more likely you are to be successful. So if you want to have 10, but I'm telling you, it's going to be a lot harder to market to 10 than if you have 1, 2, or 3. So the more laser focused you can be, and this is about growing your organization. So whoever else you have right now, we're leaving them at status quo. This is about finding new people. And these are the people we're going to find. So we need to be laser-like in our ability to find them. So this is Jackie Smith. Jackie Smith is my friend and client. She is the executive director of LACE Specialized Education, that provides special education services to Lutheran schools. And when we worked with her, we really developed an idea of 2 avatars for them. One was parents of children in Lutheran schools whose kids were struggling in school, and 2, the donors who were Lutheran and Lutheran congregations. So that was it. Those are the two people that we're focused on. And once we focused on that, then we can really like, okay, now we know where to put our energy and our time. So the idea is creating those two avatars and really just rolling with them. I mean, you can call them target audiences. I like avatar because we're really painting the picture of a person here and what that person is like. And the more specific and defined we can be about that person, the more likely we are to attract those kinds of people. So now we're going to do an attraction audit. And this is an assessment to look at your current strategies and see how effective they are in communicating your brand to your avatar. It's way less painful than it sounds, but what you're going to do is, let me jump back here. What you're going to do is you're going to take, there's two parts to an assessment. One is you're going to take everything that represents your organization visually, from your website, any social media graphics, a PowerPoint if you have PowerPoint display, slides, brochures, annual reports, anything like that, and we're going to put it together in a room. And you're going to look at it and say, okay, knowing what we know about our avatar, how well does this speak to them, right? How well does this speak to us as an organization? Does it represent us? Does it tell a story, right? Does it tell our story accurately? And you're going to ask two questions. Is this a story I'm excited to share? And is this a story that my avatar is excited to receive? And if the answer is no, that's okay. We can fix that. But it's just an idea of how close are we right now with what we have. I don't want you to feel like when you develop a brand that you have to throw everything away. Sometimes it's just a matter of making small adjustments to what you already have. You know, maybe it's language or photography or something like that that can really make something that wasn't that effective be really effective, because now we're working in the context of attracting this avatar. The second part about this is to understand how much time and money that you spend on each one of these pieces. And here's the real story behind this, is that a lot of times we think we are quote unquote building relationships or quote unquote fundraising because we're creating an annual report or we're creating a newsletter. And the thing is that no one is you. No one is you. No one can be you. You are the only you. There are a lot of people who could write your web content or create your newsletter. And this is not a sales pitch because I don't do either of those things. But the idea is that when you spend a lot of your time making stuff like this, you are actually losing out on money because you are not spending the time building those real relationships that are going to bring those like-minded people to you. So it's how much time and money do you spend on each piece, both not just in hard costs of production, but how much time and how much money do you spend salary-wise on producing each of those pieces? And take a hard look at that and say, is this really worth it? Is my time better spent, right, doing other things? So in an audit, I know no one wants to be audited, but it's I don't want to scare anybody because really, you know, I'm like the least scary person. So, okay, so this is Beth Code, Executive Director of Episcopal City Mission. So they provide they minister to kids in juvenile court custody. So these are kids who are in kid jail, and they work with them. They have ministers that minister to the kids. They call it a ministry of presence. And we realized that if we're looking at the avatar, we weren't really communicating as effectively as we could. So once we understood the effectiveness of once we understood what our current donors, like what their needs were, what their pains and gains were, we were able to make the changes in their message and their talking points to generate the empathy and understanding that they wanted to. And you can actually go to I should have mentioned this earlier, to Lace Specialized Education or Episcopal City Mission. You can look up their websites and you can see the messaging that we did for them around this idea. But it started with this assessment of really looking and saying, okay, what are we creating and how well is it serving this avatar? Now, number 3 is a brand promise. Now, this 1 and 2 are really our guides, right? This is our internal guide. Number 3 is where a brand hits the market. So a brand promise is a meaningful connection and it's a promise that you make to everyone your organization interacts with. So what is the promise that you make? And it's that emotional connection. It's you can trust us, and brand promises aren't said, but they are understood. So I'll give you an example of a brand promise that you probably all had, which is Target. Like everyone's been to Target. And so Target's brand promise, and I'm not in marketing at Target, but if they gave honorary degrees in Target shopping, I'm sure I'd have a PhD. So, but Target's brand promise is like, you're going to love being in our store. And, you know, for me, Target was like a recreational activity, right? I mean, like I love being in a Target, and they know that, and they never say that, but it's around everything you feel. And if you go to Target and have a bad experience, like that's crazy. Like I go to QT every day. If I'm in line for more than 30 seconds, I freak out, because like QT's brand promise is to like serve you like crazy. And I know that's never said, but I don't need to say it because you feel it, right? So what do you feel when you interact with your organization? What is that promise that you make to everyone that interacts with you? And that's where the emotional connection starts. And in fundraising, we look at heart, mind, wallet, and your brand promise is that lead heart indicator. So and everything we do builds from this brand promise. So it's key that we have one. So I'm going to tell you about Oasis. You might have heard of Oasis. They're a national organization based in St. Louis. They have chapters all over the country. They work with older adults. They provide educational, recreational, and volunteer opportunities. So the idea was, what is Oasis? What is their brand promise? Like, what do they promise? And we landed on this idea of being young at heart, this idea of like that life is fulfilling, like that the learning and the enjoyment of life doesn't have to stop after retirement, like that idea of just being young at heart. And so then we came up with step 4, which is the main message. I'm going to give you a spoiler alert here. The main message became lifelong adventure, because the lifelong adventure of life, lifelong meant older adults without saying older adults because nobody likes labels. And that adventure was the idea of like, hey, there's always fun times to happen. But the idea of Oasis being like of young at heart. And then we could look at the photography, at their design, at the website and say, does this say young at heart? Is this meeting that promise? When you walk into an Oasis office, does it feel young at heart? So it's this idea of every interaction from the, receptionist when you walk into an office to any interaction online or in person, any event, it's going to fulfill that promise. And it just permeates everything you do. And then number 4, now that we know our brand promise, our main message is the articulation of that brand promise. So the brand promise is that main message. And the main message is how we make that, how we deliver that brand promise to our audiences. And it answers the question, why should I care? Why, as a audience, as an avatar, why would I care about this, right? And so a main message is really the articulation of that brand promise. So this is Foray. This is Jennifer Owen. She's the executive director. They work with immigrant and refugee women. They train them to make jewelry and clothes in their home, and then they sell the items. And so we came up with this main message of hope is a beautiful thing, as an idea that, hope of providing hope to the immigrant women and refugee women. And then also like the idea of like, it's a beautiful thing, like hope is a beautiful thing, the jewelry and the clothes and the merchandise that they sell. So this really took that brand promise and brought it to life. And then we were able then to take this and we can use this as a fundraising message, because their 2 main avatars are donors to this organization, people who really care about the women, refugee women and immigrant women, and also like people who want to buy nice jewelry. That was their other avatar, who like funky contemporary kind of jewelry. So we have these 2 avatars, and that main message appeals to both of them in very different ways. So you can play with that, and then you can repeat that over and over and over again, so that this becomes the embodiment of your organization. And so in order to attract people to you, you really have to be very authentic and strong in who you are. And when we tend to shift and move off our identity and kind of reinvent ourselves every 2 or 3 years, it's very frustrating for those that we're trying to attract. So this idea of creating this image and just owning it and putting it everywhere is what that main message is about. Now, step 5 is talking points. Talking points is delivering your brand in person. So now we have our brand promise. So we have an emotional connection. We have our main message, which is an articulation of that emotional connection. And then we have our talking points. Our talking points deliver the brand in person. And I think this is often overlooked in our organizations because we tend to like default to written word, right? We're gonna talk. We're gonna like our web content and our brochures, but how we deliver the brand in person is pretty much typically, first of all, the most frequent way, and second of all, the most powerful way. There's nothing more powerful than meeting someone, either, and staff, board, committee, whatever. I've been on boards of organizations, and my ability to articulate that organization's vision and mission is really key to me being a board member. So it's the most common way, and we're going to share, and it allows people to talk with confidence and ease, and not just to talk about the organization, but to understand who they're talking to. And if that person is related to that avatar, then be able to then pull out language to connect with that avatar. And I hate this idea of an elevator speech because, first of all, other than in this situation I'm in right now, I never talk for 60 minutes without being interrupted, much less 30 seconds without being interrupted. And the chances of you, when you say, oh, I'm going to give you my pitch, you're just like throwing something at the wall and seeing what sticks. What we want to start are conversations. So before I even talk about my organization, I'm going to ask you what you're about and what's going on with you. And that way I can understand how we could connect, and I can pull out the language to help do that. So there are 4 parts, and this is probably the most involved slide I have. And so please don't feel like you have to scribble all this down. You can completely download the slides and get them. There are 4 parts to the talking points: what we do, why you should, how we do it, why you should care, and what to do. So the what we do and the why we do it, or how we do it, on the left are what we do and how we do it. Those are your internal dialogue, right? So these don't change no matter who you're talking to. It's really about, here's what we do. Here's the difference we make in the world, right? It's not our tagline. It can be a formulation of that, but it's more of a casual sentence. Oh, we do this, right? And then, so in this case, this is Community Living with Barb Griffith. And, we enrich the lives of people with disabilities so they can achieve their highest potential. We could even casualize that language a little bit more. Oh, we work with people with disabilities so they can live their fullest life. Whatever it is, you can modify that as long as it has the same sentiment. People can own this in their own kind of specific way. And then how we do it. We provide, this is how we do it. We do programs and services, blah, blah, blah. Then why you should care and what to do. Those are avatar dependent. So why would I care? So in this case, this talking point is to businesses into the community that would want to employ people with disabilities, right? So each avatar is going to have a different take on this talking point. And then what to do is your call to action. And we never want to forget the call of action because we want to tell people how they can help. When I work with nonprofits, I see that we are really, really good at giving. Like we love to give, but receiving is a little more difficult. And so it's really important that we say how you can help us, right? Even if that person is not in a position right then to help us, we're always just going to plant the seed because you just never know, right? And so don't worry about whether they are in a position to help or not. Just let them know how they could help or people like them could help, right? So that's what we do, how we do it, why you should care. what we and what to do and your call to action. So you're going to have a set of these for each avatar, right? So I'm going to be generous today, and I'm going to give you 3 avatars. I'm going to give you one for program, one for fundraising, and I'm going to give you a wild card, right? Maybe you have a campaign coming up or a specific thing that you really need people to participate in. So you're going to need talking points for each one of those and really tap into the why you should care. And that's why it's so important in step 1 to understand our avatar, because we want to make sure we're speaking their language. We want to make sure we're connecting with them. So now that we delivered our brand in person, we're going to talk about how to deliver our brand in indirect ways. So now we're going to look at, now that we have our brand promise, our main message, and our talking points, we're going to go back to that assessment, and we're going to say, what needs to change, right? When I look at that brand promise, is it saying, like when we looked at Oasis, is it saying young at heart, right? Is it saying what we want it to say? And if it's not, let's make a plan to adjust. And I want to emphasize this over time. Don't freak out, right? Because if what you have is not that great, because this is a long game, this is a long-term thing. And we're going to have the discipline and the patience just to make these changes over time. Some of them may be easy, like adjusting some content on your website. Some of them may take a little time. You may need to budget for some things, like maybe some new print materials and stuff like that. Either way, we're just going to make a plan to do that. I want to talk to you about Caring Solutions. This is Maddie Hahn. She's the founder. When I worked with them at 501 Creative, and we created this tagline, Discover Your Abilities, with them. And we really was a case of, hey, here's what we have. We have a website. We have some things that are working for us. And then we have some things that aren't working for us. And so let's take what we have and that's working and then build on that and correct over time. It doesn't have to be throwing everything out, right? What it has to be is really just making that speak authentically, your authentic truth, right? Because when we're speaking in our truth and we're speaking to our avatar, we want to make that connection. We want to make that heart connection. So it's not about convincing people, right, of the worth of our organization. It's about attracting those like-minded people. So the stronger we are in our message, the more embodied we are as an organization, we're going to attract those like-minded people. And yes, will some people not connect with us? Is true. They will not. Yet those probably weren't our people anyway. So part of the brand of attraction is to attract those like-minded people and then take a deep breath and let the people who never really were our people go. Because we're spending a whole lot of time and money on people who really aren't that interested. Okay, now 7, we're going to take the show on the road. We're going to share. So share is we got to go where our avatar is. And we're going to share information and create community. All right. So there's 2 ways we're going to share. And this is something that I don't think we're doing very much right now. And I would love to see you guys do more of. If there's one thing I could want you to do is entertain and educate. So we're going to share information. The information we're going to share entertains and educates. And this is not just about, hey, we raised this much money, or hey, we did this. That is one part of it. The other part of it is creating some really good content, some really rich content, because every single one of you on the phone with me today has an organization that is awesome at something, right? I was on the board of Foster Adoptive Care Coalition. Now they're my client. We've had this back and forth relationship for years. They have awesome information to share with somebody like me, who is a foster adoptive mom, and just other people who care about kids in foster care. And it's not just about, hey, we did this, we did this, we did this. It's like, here are 5 things facing kids in foster care today. Or it can even be more personal. They have educational advocates. They have therapists. 5 ways to help your kid who's a child who's struggling with anxiety. They are experts at kids with anxiety. They're experts around kids around trauma. And this information can be really beneficial. It's not about just sharing the good news of our organization, which is important to be a thought leader, to be recognized, to elevate our brand, to be attractive, we need to start being content machines. And I'm gonna tell you, you're like freaking out right now. I can feel it, like I can feel it through the microphone. But it's content is really not that hard to develop once you get in the habit of it. It could be making a 5-minute video. Like it could be writing 2 paragraphs on something. It doesn't have to be a lengthy, thought out, white paper. Just these, it can be a graphic and a 1-sentence tweetable, quotable something that you heard in a meeting or you heard somebody say that you're going to put on Instagram. These things really add up. And if you are delivering this stuff and thinking like, oh my God, no one's listening to me, that's okay. It does feel like that a little bit, but just keep doing what you're doing. And not just posting on your social media, not just posting on your website, but finding other places for you to deliver this information. So let's go back to step 1, our avatar. One of the questions I asked is, where do they spend time on social media? What blogs do they read? What concerns do they have in the world? Because we want to find those blogs, we want to find those websites, and we want to put content on them. Almost every website that delivers content is hungry for contributors. And most of them have guidelines, and you can probably go. So the idea is, first of all, let's figure out what who your avatar is, and then figure out some of those places that they are that you want to be, and then go get their submission guidelines. Talk to someone or email someone in there and talk to them about delivering. And sometimes you can be like, there's 4 or 5 websites where I'm sort of like a I can't remember the language, but I'm like I'm a blessed content creator. Like I've passed the test, and then I can submit stuff regularly if I want to. And I'm considered a content provider, and you can then start really driving people then to your website, because there's 2 ways we're going to create this brand. The one is from the bottom up, and the second one is from the top down. So if you imagine that your brand of attraction was a garden, right? And we're growing this beautiful garden, and we're going to attract butterflies to our garden, right? And if our avatars were butterflies and they're attracted to the garden, we're going to grow that garden from the ground up with our website and our social media. But then also we're going to grow it from the top down with the weather and the rain and the sun to nurture that garden. And that is really posting stuff and being on other people's sites and being part of a community. So one of the things I said is create community. Your needs are my needs. Like I'm here to create a community of love around an issue that we all care about. And when we create that feeling of community, the most important fundamental need that we have as humans, it's not ourselves, it's not our family, it's to be in a group. And we are still herd-based animals, evolutionary, and we want to be included in a group, and we hate being left out of a group. And so when we create these groups of community and support, either through Facebook groups or the giving societies or whatever that we create, this helps really fill that people's need to be in a group. So just think about, we want to share information, not just on our websites, but on other sites, and also create communities of support and community, because those are important to people, that it fulfills a need in me to be a part of a community and to be thought of as part of that community. And also then, and now I know, like I can have support even outside of my organization. Like when I'm on the board of an organization and I feel a kinship and a friendship with those board members, and they become friends to me. They become a support system to me. So it's not just about our organization, our ability to help. It's our ability to be of value to others. And the more of value we are to others, the more value we put in other people's lives, the more value they will have to us. So the idea of creating a brand of attraction is, how can I be of service and of value to my avatars today? Because I know if I'm important in their lives, they will be important in my life. So this is Melanie Sheets. I already talked about Foster Adoptive Care Coalition, but we have been working with them on a brand of attraction for several years, and it has really grown the organization. First of all, we started pumping up their social media, and not just what they posted, but when they would find relevant articles and be parts of conversations around issues around foster care. And then we really worked with their language so that they could fundraise a major gift fundraising in a way that they hadn't before. This started a few years ago, and the first thing we started with was really the language. The second thing was the social media, but bumping up the status of the organization so that they were findable, they were a thought leader, they were positioned in a way that made people understand the value of what they did. And so it's easy to attract people to an organization like that. Now they're going national. They're using the branding principles to attract people. They're putting their programs in other states. And when you expand like that, it's really important that you have a strong brand going in so that you can take, your beliefs and your brand and your identity, and you're going to carry that with you as you implement across different states. So I don't see any questions in the chat. We have 2 new messages. Okay. Yay, good morning. Okay, I'm going to go, and if you have any more questions, throw them in here because I'm on the chat and I'm looking actively. Who in your organization should lead these steps, and who within or outside of your organization participate in creating the brand of attraction? That is a great question, Jasmine. Thank you so much. Okay. So Jasmine, first of all, I like a broad-based team to do this. And I have very specific methodology for this, and I actually have a worksheet I can help you with. But the idea is that you don't want to create this brand in a vacuum, that you want to be able to pull in what I like to do is get a cross-section of people like board, staff, volunteers, whatever, like a bunch of different people from your organization, and then talk to them about how they think and feel around the organization to get their input up front. And the idea, though, is that you're going to make a lot of decisions down the road that you don't have to have that big group together every time you make a decision. I like to get input up front, so that can be a survey, that can be one-on-one interviews, that can be a group meeting, whatever you want up front, and then get a smaller team of maybe like I like the triple threat of board member, executive director, and then one like implementer, development director, marketing person, so that all 3 levels are represented to really make those decisions around how to move forward. So get your input up front and then get a small team to make your decisions. Okay, Wendy, the PowerPoint is available at brandofattraction.com. If you put your name and your email in there, it'll open up a window and you can download the slides. And we will also have a recording of this webinar, and we will also have, and Neosha will have the slides as well. Okay, now Krista, the NPO I work for targets parents and teachers of gifted and high ability children. I have a hard time finding funding outside of parents. Do you have any pointers or ideas? Grants are few and far between for very specialized organizations like us. So I feel you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I do have some ideas. So the NPO targets parents and teachers. We have a hard time finding funding outside of parents. So I think that is true because no one's going to care about their kid more about their parents. My first thought is, are there people who are invested in high functioning kids succeeding, and who are they? And, without understanding sort of what the heart is of your organization, how can I connect to that? The other idea is, outside of parents, how can you grow that? Because this reminds me almost of a private school situation where it's like, who's really going to care about the school, but like the people who went to that school. And it's hard to push that outside there. So the idea is to create opportunities for them to be as connected as possible, and then create those and then broaden that community of support. So you're of value to other organizations. Okay. More questions. Okay. If you have any more questions, shoot me and I will stop to answer them. And Krista, I'd love to talk to you offline about that because I do have more specific ideas around how to help you. Denise says, I work with a ministry that assists men and refugees. In this day and age, would you say that is not an attractive word? I think that the people who, oh, it's okay. Yes. I just gave you it's brandofattraction.com. It should pull it up if it doesn't let me know, but it worked this morning. I work with a ministry that assists refugees. In this day and age, would you say that is not an attractive word? We use refugee as a tagline. I say it depends on what your avatar says. So actually, there's two things. One is if that's a word that you believe in, then you use that word. But also, like, you think about your avatar. Is that a word that your avatar believes in? So in branding, we have a mullet theory, a mullet from the 80s, like business in the front, party in the back, right? So sometimes you have to lead with other people's language in order to get them hooked, and then you fill in your language, right? So it may be a sense of like, yes, you use refugee, but it's not in your tagline. Although I don't think so. Right now, my gut feeling is refugee is a word that is going to be very attractive to the people who share your heart, and the people who aren't attracted to it, I really wouldn't worry about it. That's my first thought. My second thought is if you're not comfortable with that word, then we really need to go into why that is and figure out some language, because in order for you to use it, you have to really own it, and then that's going to make it okay with the people that you attract, because they're going to share your heart and share your affinity. Okay, then what suggestions do you have for a local branch of a national organization? Oh, Kathy, you and I are going to have drinks one day over this. What suggestions do you have for the local branch of a national organization that controls branding, visuals, etc.? So I've been on both sides of that. I've been the person who made the big binder, and I've been the person who had to uphold the big binder. And I think the idea is to create, first of all, what you have is not a bad thing because you have a lot of support. So go with what works for you, but then also what makes you different and unique as an organization, and can you bring that out in your language, in your social media, and things like that. So for me, it's you're gonna those things I would try not to let those big branding issues bring you down, and really bring out your organizational personality and how you talk about it and how you connect with people on a personal level. So we're running low on time, and I want to just let you know, because you said I have a free gift. Hold on. Come on. Okay. And all of a sudden my slides are being mean. Okay, here we go. So what I do for organizations, I do these 3-day workshops where we basically go through all the steps I did with you on a deep dive in day 3. Up to 3 people from your organization can come, and you're going to walk out at the end with a marketing plan for your brand to implement this brand of attraction. It's 3-day, very intensive, transforming experience, and it's designed to not just change one person in your organization, but to change your culture, which is why up to 3 people can come. It's, like I said, it's exciting, it's intense, and we do it in connection and community with other nonprofits. I'm having one coming up in 2 weeks, and the next one is in May. You can go to my website for the schedule. I am looking for organizations I'm not looking for organizations who are struggling, who are in crisis. When I am looking for organizations who are open-minded, who love to be educated, who love a good leader to come in there and help them, who want to do better and who are willing to invest the energy and the time and the money to getting better. I have found over the years that the best way that I can work is not to write something for you, to write a communications plan for you, but to co-create it together. I spent a lot of time figuring out other organizations' problems, and it costs you a lot of money. So how I do this now is it's a much better value. It costs you less, you do it faster, and we get a better product at the end because we were both involved and both using our collective intelligence to sort this out. So your free gift today is your attraction audit. So if you go to attractionaudit.com and you want to, it's going to bring up my Calendly, and please feel free to sign up for a time. I am not going to sales you. I swear, if you don't know me, I think you know me now. I'm totally chill. I really want to serve. If I think I can help you, I will let you know. If I can't, I will put you in touch with people who can. What I do is very specific. So I'm not out to sell you anything. No obligation, no must, no fuss. Don't worry about it. Okay. Sign up for this audit. You're going to love it. All we're going to do is take a look at your current brand, and we're going to then look at how well that brand is functioning. And I'm going to give you a ton of ideas for how you could do it better. And, the point of the conversation is if I can help you, I will. If I think you would be right for my program, I will let you know. And if you don't want to do it, that's okay too, or I can refer you on. The point of the conversation is that we get to know each other better, and that, you think of me well and often in the world. So I'm happy to do this at any time. And if you want to know more information about the workshops, just go to my website, mariannedersch.com, and you can take a look at the website, and you can always email me, marianne@mariannedersch.com. I am available to talk to you anytime if I can answer more of your questions. And if you are one of the people who said I can answer more in-depth offline, if you just want to book an attraction audit, I'd be happy to get on the phone with you and answer a question more in depth. And that's all I have for you today. I went a few minutes over. I hope you are okay with that, and I hope you got a ton of value out of this. I'm going to just make sure I don't have any more people in the chat. Okay. And so thank you very much. And Neosha put the link. Yes, I can. So the link is here's the link to the slides. If you want, here's the link to the slides. You can grab those from the slides. And if you want to shoot me an email at marianne@mariannedersch.com, I will send you the slides as well. All right. Thank you all. Happy Valentine's Day. Love your donors. I love you. Thank you for participating.